Hey everybody, it's Dan Sfera at www.theclinicaltrialsguru.com. Once again, it's www.theclinicaltrialsguru.com, where we discuss clinical trials in plain English so you can understand. Today's topic, I wanted to talk about three major reasons why I've noticed, and probably Don, the other guru that you see on this blog, have noticed, about why people are initially turned off on the idea of joining clinical trials, and they're kind of hesitant to even explore the topic. And we as research professionals can do a better job of addressing these issues. So pay attention if you're a study participant or if you're a research professional trying to perhaps boost enrollment at your site for your studies. The first reason why people are hesitant to join studies is there's a huge stigma still associated with clinical trials regarding the fact that people who join studies are human guinea pigs and they're being experimented on in exchange for cash. And this stigma, we've addressed this post or this topic in previous posts. So if you go on the search bar on our blog, type in guinea pig, and you'll be able to find that post. And I'm sure there'll be plenty of other posts in the future. This particular issue may be well-founded, but it's false. And the reason why people may have this particular idea of clinical trials and have this stigma attached to the clinical trials industry in general is probably stems from the phase 1 studies. And the phase 1 studies are basically first in human studies. So after animal tests, their phase 1 studies would be the first time that the drug is introduced in humans. And they usually recruit young, healthy volunteers. And these people usually do these studies for money. I mean, let's just be honest about it. Some do it to kind of benefit society. But most of them that I've dealt with are doing it because they're looking to make some quick cash. And these studies generally pay anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000, $6,000 for anywhere from like a couple days to maybe a month or a month and a half of inpatient study. And so the idea of human guinea pigs may come from these type of studies, and these people actually they're not ashamed of calling themselves human guinea pigs, which Don and I, we've addressed this before. We still think it's wrong, and you're giving people the wrong impression of clinical trials, because most clinical trials are not phase 1 studies. Most clinical trials are either phase 2, 3, or 4 studies where they're testing the drug or the investigational product on people who suffer from the condition that the drug is supposed to treat. So the phase 1 studies are super small. It's like a small fraction of the entire piece of the pie for the clinical trials. And there's very few people can qualify. You got to be basically young and healthy and absolutely nothing wrong with you and in perfect shape to qualify for these phase 1 studies. And they take pride in calling themselves human guinea pigs. And we'll get into this topic later. But most people who join studies, they don't join studies to make money. They join studies because they're trying to find an alternative to their current treatment. And they're also hoping to benefit society as well. And sometimes they haven't found anything that works for them. So sometimes clinical trials is one of their last options. And this is often the case in cancer clinical trials. So human guinea pigs, that's false. The second reason I've noticed that most people are kind of turned off by clinical trials or don't even want to get involved is the fact that most doctors in the United States have never participated in a clinical trial. I don't know what the exact stats are. If anyone out there is watching this blog, want to send me the stats, I'll add it in here. But I guarantee you it's less than 20% of the doctors in this country have never participated in a clinical trial and probably have just a vague understanding of what a clinical trial is. So if their patients ask them, hey doc, what do you think about me joining this trial? That doctor's probably going to say, well, you know, I would recommend against it. Let's just keep you here and keep you coming in to see me. See, the doctor's worried about losing his or her patient to a clinical trial and then risking the potential problem of that patient never coming back to that doctor because they may be thinking that the study doctor is going to try to convince the patient to come see them after the clinical trial is over. So they're kind of discouraged by their doctors. Now, the exception of this would be, again, in cancer studies, where sometimes the doctors would say there's no other alternative here, you may want to consider some clinical trials. But in every other indication, the doctors are really hesitant to refer their own patients to clinical trials if they're not participating in clinical trials themselves, or if those doctors are not conducting clinical trials themselves. So that's the second reason. So research professionals, you got to address these doctors, educate them on clinical trials, let them know that you're not trying to steal their patients from them, that the clinical trial is going to be complementary to their regular visits with the doctor, and you need to make them feel comfortable about this. And if it takes you or someone from your staff going out and meeting with some of these physicians and educating them on the topic, it's well worth it. You need to build these relationships. The third reason why people are hesitant to join studies is a human characteristic of the fear of the unknown. So whenever you're dealing with anything that's experimental, you're not guaranteed to get better. This drug is not guaranteed to be safe. I mean, we can't make guarantees in clinical trials because we don't know. We can't guarantee that the drug is safe. We've done plenty of tests in animals and in humans. By the time a drug reaches phase 3, where most people may want to consider joining a study, it's gone through a lot of tests. We already know what the major side effects are. We already know what the toxicity levels are. We already know that it's safe enough to progress to phase 3. That it's probably safe enough for you to try. The worst thing that can happen in these studies is the drug may not work for you and your condition. But people, they can't comprehend that. They think that just because something is not guaranteed to be safe or effective means it's automatically risky. And it's true. You got to weigh your risks and your benefits, but you have to understand that just because we're saying it's experimental because we're hindered by legal regulations to say that it is an experimental therapy does not mean that you're going to die taking this drug, and it does not mean that you're going to be a guinea pig. So you got to really do your own homework, analyze the drug, see what the side effects were from the previous trials. Ask the doctors, ask your study doctor or the research staff these type of questions. And if you're okay with that and you're willing to balance the risk against the benefits, go ahead and do it. But that's the third reason why people are kind of hesitant to join studies or even consider joining studies is the basic human fear of the unknown. So research professionals address these 3 issues. The first one was the stigma of being guinea pigs. The second one is doctors. Most doctors don't want to refer their patients to clinical trials because they themselves don't know enough about clinical trials. And the third one is the fear of the unknown. And the study participants, now you know what the majority of people's fears are about clinical trials, and you can do an assessment of yourself and say, hey, do I understand myself? Do I understand my own reasons for wanting to or not wanting to join a study? Would love to hear your thoughts on this. www.theclinicaltrialsguru.com. Once again, www.theclinicaltrialsguru.com. Thanks a lot.